Yeah, so okay, to tie it all back together, now that we talked about the three dimensions, the fourth dimension is tying into that moat aspect that I'm talking about the what's it called, about like I don't know, like I'll put it like this, when you talk about turning lead to gold, or turning even people's like misconceptions, like stereotypes, whatever, like you can use all that shit for energy. It's kind of a crazy thing. It's like the same way a genie will be like, I'm gonna grant you 3 wishes, but then when you go to ask a genie for a wish, and be like manipulating the fuck out of everybody and just sapping everybody for energy and shit. And that's what, you know, they're gonna call it. Like, it can get vampiristic and it can get demonic and all that extra shit, but there's also a level of using it to like I said, like the booby traps and like the like, it's kind of like if you had a woman and she was I don't know, there was like a dude hitting on her, clearly on some like lust type of energy, but like, not that that's bad, but just in like but doing it in like a malicious way, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of it's still an energy that exists. It's punitive. I don't know what the word is. It's more like, it's punitive, if that makes sense. It's like a penalty for kind of being wrong, in a sense. You know what I'm saying?
So what's the penalty for being wrong in that sense?
So like in that level, it would be like, let's say like a woman like manipulating a dude who's just like clearly on some lust shit, and then he's like doing it in a level like that's kind of like out, like wild and out, you know, and she's just kind of like maybe using him to buy drinks, and you know what I'm saying, like stuff like that. But then when he might be feeling good and all that, but when he leaves that situation, he's like, he looks at his bank account or something, he's like, fuck. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a punitive, it's a subtle way of working with energies to penalize people, because that's like some demonic or jailhouse, or that's some shit that you do not here, but like in the other world, if that makes sense.
Right. Like,
so, yeah.
As far as like having to maintain that moat or protective field, you know, basically like a protective field of influence in essence.
Kind of, yeah. So like, even that blue light filter that exists outside of Earth, right, to filter out all the blue, like everything that's blue, literally, that is because it's the same reason why the prophets in the Bible were able to like walk with lions and not be burnt with fire, or even shamans and stuff too, right? But or not be bitten by crocodile. Like, there's a village in Nigeria, like they literally there's like children swimming in the water with crocodiles and stuff, and they have this whole story about how like when they moved in, it was like the crocodiles basically granted them access to live there, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And there's never been in the history of anyone living there any incidents with people and the crocodiles. They just literally like swim right by them and stuff, and they're just like, cool, you know? So it's this ability to like not be burned by fire, not be touched by demons and stuff, and to someone else. And this is why I think the whole face tat generation with like hip hop and stuff has been coming up. From the outside, I'm not saying to get face tats. From the outside, it might look a certain type of way, but it really just wards off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the tattoos definitely like I even think about that with myself. I'm like, I'm pretty sure, like, I look at my tats and I'm like, you know, most people, like, I'd be forgetting that some people could take it as, oh, he must be like into all kind of stuff, or, you know, it's like, nah, I just like, you know, artwork on my body suit or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Literally, like hieroglyphics on the temple, like, you know, but yeah, that whole little vibe, you know, of like it being like some form of protection in essence, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, and that's kind of energy with using fear and stuff like that.
Damn, as you say that, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I even think about though, like the protective energy of like how you could transmute that energy of like being afraid of that. In essence, like, so I have this energy about me where like in so many words, like I assume that everybody could be like a murderer or something like that. You know, like
Yeah.
so like you know, like from a little kitty looking person to, you know, a woman to anybody, I'm like, oh, you know, they all could possibly be serial killers, or, you know, but long story short, like by having that type of mind frame, it kind of basically squashes that energy of like feeling some kind of way when you do come across like somebody who has face tats and probably just murked somebody. You know, you're not, you're in a space of like calmness, because it's like, oh, I expect everybody to be a killer, so the fact that you just look like one or whatever, you know what I'm saying, like it kind of, it's like a little magical thing mentally, I realized, with that whole energy. Because that's one of the reasons why I be feeling like I could like vibe anywhere, you know what I'm saying, and nobody fuck with me. And that's one of the reasons. But yeah, that's definitely.
It's really just like knowing how to treat people. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of like a person might be like around it, and that's the whole thing about the Ant King in Hunter x Hunter, right? Because the Ant King, he was like, this is the first time beings from the dark continent, and they're not even talking about really Africa, they're talking about more like Antarctica and stuff like that beyond, you know. This is the first time any being from the dark continent ever showed up, and Netero, he was like basically the world's best like hunter, which is kind of like a mason or a martial artist, or I don't know, any of that stuff, right? And he was like the world's best martial artist, and he was basically supposed to be the Buddha of the age. But the thing was, the Ant King was actually really like the Buddha of the, but he was like literally this crazy villain, you know what I'm saying? And there's this whole concept of like, well, just because it says that, for example, that you were made in the image of God and things like that, an ant is also made in the image of God, you know what I'm saying? So how would you not know that something that looked like Miriam or like the Ant King or like a demon or whatever? And this is idolization on a level two. How do you not know that that is not the savior? Like why do people think it's going to be like a blonde hair, blue-eyed, Palladian Jesus looking being, or why? And then the demon is like the same way that people put a picture of Jesus, and you're not supposed to have those images, and that's idolization, making him look beautiful, even though it says Lucifer and like all this type of stuff is the beautiful one, but then making the demons look all hideous and stuff like that. But then it's like, what if the savior, it actually looks like the demon, but it's not actually, you know what I'm saying? It's not actually that.
I'm about to say like a demon, but not in the sense of how it's been painted, you know, in essence.
Yeah, exactly. Because like, what if you just treat a being, whether it's what kind of spirit it is, the same, kind of like what you're saying, right? And based off of the interaction you have, that's how you determine if it was good or not for you. You know what I mean? Like,
what you saying? Like, well, you say based off the interaction. Wait, like run it again.
So like, for example, someone might think, okay, if I see a being that has horns and I don't know, some crazy looking demon thing, right? And you're like, okay, well, just when you look at it, you're judging the thing already, and then you're just gonna create a certain type of interaction right away, right? But if you just interact with it without having any kind of like preconceptions,
right.
then it's that crazy looking thing is actually maybe like the nicest person there, you know what I'm saying? And then the killer is the motherfucking beautiful Palladian looking thing.
That's kind of like what the good place kind of taps into, you know, again with the little show with Archangel Michael. Let me see if I could bring it up. But yeah, like Archangel Michael is like this white guy with white hair, old, and he's like, oh yeah, you know, just getting the good place together, you know, this and that. But like he really a demon. So all right, you see in the screen? Like
Yeah, that's that platinum, palladian, platinum blonde hair, right? That's the sign of immortality.
and he's basically like again like a demon, and they in the just one, because he also kind of brought up like I'm a ninth dimensional being, or I'm tapped into the 9 realms, and he was again like the boss. I think Sean, his name is Sean, but I don't know etymology wise. I guess probably pointing to Shaitan or Saturn in essence. But like basically,
Sean goes back to the word John.
All right, and I guess going back to the word ion and Scorpion, because John was like the Scorpion constellation. But yeah, like he had the person who's over the project, and so Michael had to report back to him or whatever. And so in the good place, he was only supposed to press the reset button like once, he had messed up with it the first round and was supposed to only be on the second trial run. But quiet as kept, he he done erased and started the realm over like about 100 times. And it's for the people in the quote unquote good place, or in what they find out the bad place or whatever, quote unquote. And one of them keep remembering, like, hey, we're up in the bad place, no matter how many times he erased their memory or whatever and start over, and like scrap the project and start it over, And now the humans, he working with the humans, learning ethics and stuff like that, and basically hiding from the other demons that he had like multiple trial runs of of keeping this world together. So Sean, the boss or the judge, and matter of fact, and what's funny, Sean actually, I guess it kind of points to the reptilian energy somewhat, but like when he's studying,
that is a reptilian.
When he's studying or doing something overwhelming or something, he puts himself into a little, almost like a little caterpillar pod, and he talked about how sticky it is inside the pot or whatever. But long story short, and Sean is like again like the judge over Michael, to make sure that he's running that world on point. And what's funny is he did get a promotion. He was like, if I get demoted or I retire, they basically, in essence, so many words like cause him to transition or kill him and spread his energy onto all of the stars or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like when I transition, they retire, they're gonna spread my energy around to all the stars or whatever.
That's what I meant by putting a body in the mound. That's what that is. When they bury a body in one of the mounds too, or like when they sacrifice like the woman to King Kong, to the Titan. That's the story. That's exactly what it is. They're spreading the energy of a high ascended being across the planet or the star.
All right, and what is also, even though it's making it, I mean, it's somewhat a personification of the earth realm, you know what I'm saying? But also it was an energy of he was like, he ended up getting promoted because they was like, when they looked at the statistics, he was like, although they using, so like Sean and the other demons using like old ways of torture, like lighting a person on fire or bending their arm backwards. Like, I'm just saying anything of that nature, but it's like more so physical torture or whatever. But they was like, shit, but they was like, this little place you got going, Michael, you're torturing them psychologically and emotionally, like, and it seems to be even rougher on them than, the physical torture or whatever. So he had got promoted because of that, Yeah, this little show tripping. Somebody, Queen just put me on this little show.
A friend told me about it like a year ago, but I didn't watch it. That's funny. That's crazy.
Right. Because it seemed like it got some little funny, like I say, little programming in it. I mean, most of these shows do. That's why I kind of stick to anime and comic books, and more so comic books made by the company Image, because they got like more of when I'm reading it, I could sense it's less hands-on on like trying to create a facade, like how Marvel does. In essence, like Marvel's a little more mainstream, so even though it's like mythological stories with a lot of truth to it, they still got their own twist that they trying to like social engineer and program into you and shit.
Well, a lot of people don't know about Marvel. Even in the Marvel story, they show you this. Marvel is really ran by like Greek gods and like gods and stuff like that, and it's like basically the Greek gods are having a war with the Japanese god over what they call like the sword of truth, or like the If you see Rurouni Kenshin and like stuff like that, there's basically the story of these two swords. Achilles had one of the two swords actually. So there was the sword of Troy and then the sword of Achilles. One's the god killer sword and one's the grass cutter sword. The grass cutter is talking about like the agriculturist, like the guy who like, for example, like in Black Panther when they had Bucky and he was like living with Black Panther on the farm and stuff like that, right? That's the whole Bai Tawi order, like in Ethiopia with like the monks with like the dreads and like this kind of where Rasta ties into all that stuff. A lot of people don't know like with Rastafarianism, like with dreads and stuff, it ties a lot to the Ethiopian monks who have dreads, and it goes into a deep thing. But yeah, that is the Japanese god of Japanese gods of are basically the death gods, the Shinigami, right? The soul reapers, and they like. And they're at war with the Greek gods, right? So this even goes into Pearl Harbor and how like America and Japan have such bad blood. And anime, this is like the whole thing between anime and comics, you know what I'm saying? It's a deep thing. Because you have like the you have the DC universe, you have the MCU, right? But they all exist within a comic universe, you know what I'm saying? And then anime has all these different universes, which is actually even crazier. And then all of those, anime and anime and comics, they all exist in like a story universe, which I call, well, in a show called Tower of God, they call it Axis. So that's why on my anime channel, I've been doing a thing called Beyond Axis, where I try to like synchronize and go beyond all of the stories, you know what I'm saying? And show all the similarities and stuff between all of the stories. Because I'm like, the MK Ultra shit is just kind of, it's good for entertainment, but then the MK Ultra shit is like, you have to catch that so it doesn't program you, you know what I'm saying?
Right, because I definitely be sensing like certain aspects of certain shows. I'm like, all right, this shit feel weird. I feel like they're trying to sell me on a certain storyline to like on some programming shit, like to throw me off, you know what I'm saying, in that sense.
And that's what Marvel does. Marvel is ran by Palladians, like, and they're not even the real Palladians. That's why I was going off with my Slaying the Dragon series, and I did I was talking about like, you know, the yoga covens and all that shit, right? Because it was actually like they're running out of energy heavy. This is even tying into what's happening with the war down there. Like it's tying into a lot of stuff. The Palladians, they stole that energy. So the reason why you have a blonde hair, blue-eyed Jesus, the reason why you have Thor who looks like Jesus, right? The reason why you have Captain America who looks like Jesus, right? Like all there, and you know, Captain America came from the Super Soldier program, which came from Nazi Germany, and then the Nazis are the ones who contacted the so-called Palladians, and you know, and the whole superior race. And the reality, when you see the Saiyans with the blonde hair, that's not blonde hair, that's golden hair. You know what I'm saying? Like that, they're redirecting that. Basically, they're setting up an altar to intercept the energy for what they know, like the prophecy. So they're trying to intercept the energy. They do all these rituals so that instead of the energy going to where it's supposed to go, it goes to the
like a fake,
you know
like it goes to like a clone in essence.
Exactly, and they're not even the real Palladians. Like the Palladians, this is what I was talking about in the video. Like the far people look more like the real Palladians than like the people of the Danakil Depression. They look more like the real Palladians than the Palladians are the paladins, aka the warriors. Like I also call them the sisters of Sheba, or the daughters of Ra, the Valkyrie warriors. Like these are also the real Amazonian, like Nubian, Kushite. And like when I'm saying that, I'm talking about like worldwide warriors, you know what I'm saying? That's not it's not these, those are reptilians, and that are the image, like the blonde hair, like those ones are the reptilians, but they're not even the real reptilians either. Like they're really nameless. Like they don't even have a name. That's what I'm saying. Like they just take people's names and stories, and then they infiltrate a government and a group, a religion, whatever, and then they put themselves in the image of that. And they're basically one of the main entities in the fourth dimension that people are caught up in right now.
Like a shape-shifting race in essence.
Yeah, but they're not even the real shapeshifters either. Like they use like lower grade technology. Like the real shape-shifting beings are melanated beings too. Like that's a fact too.
They had a little, by the same person who made Spirited Away. They had like another little cartoon called Polka something, but it was about these raccoons in the forest, and like I think of the whole straight up and at it, like calling black people coons or whatever, you know. But some raccoons in the forest, and they were like good at shape shifting or whatever, and they had like
Coons of Ra.
they had a beef with the humans because the humans were starting to build a city into the forest. So to protect the forest, they would like shapeshift, and some of them even spoke. Like some of the raccoons, the elder raccoons was like, yeah, we would even shapeshift into like God-like beings, and the people would worship us, and that would prevent them from messing with nature because we kind of like in so many words spooked them with our shapeshifting in that sense. But hey, bro, because
that's in Shaman King too.
You said in Shaman King?
Yeah, there's a raccoon that is like, yeah, it's in that as well. But but real quick before you go, that's why the cities are they're fake. They're not even the real masons either. Like this is why cities are built upwards. Originally masonry, you carve into the earth, you carve downwards. So this is just a replica of the shit that we built. Like when you see the golf courses, that's a replica of the mountains or like the mounds, you know what I'm saying? The all the luxury sports they play, that's all them that's all the sports that the gods would play. So they're just trying to imitate that.
Damn. So I don't know if you're familiar with this. Right quick while I'm bringing the Amazon title. So you see this video I got on the screen right now?
Yeah.
So Judy K. King, she was running it about. So basically, she's telling the story of how baseball was started in Kemet. You know what I'm saying? So as you bring it up, like again, like sports games or whatever. It's no coincidence.
Yeah,
like she was running
hockey
about,
too.
All right. How baseball was also meant to like mimic a storyline of like genetics and how RNA moves. And she was tying like a story of RNA and DNA to a story about Jehudi or Thoth or whatever, and how Thoth in so many words represented how the RNA moves within our body in essence, or like how it scribes in essence. But yeah,
Jehudi represents Michael.
All right, yeah, right.
So yeah, I don't want to keep going on, but yeah, that's hockey. It comes from a game called Genna. Genna is so in Egypt, you can literally look it up. There's hieroglyphics of people playing hockey, and in Ethiopia, it's called Genna. So on Ethiopian Christmas, father and son, they basically play like a field hockey game, and we've been doing that forever. It's hockey. The word hockey comes from it's from the same word as the word heka or cross. So the word cross comes from the same word as the word hockey. So a hockey stick, a lacrosse stick, the game croquet or cricket, right? Tennis, which is like a crisscross racket. All the varsity sports, when they're rowing boats, right, which is like known for Cushites for bowmanship, whether it's boats or like rowing down a boat, right? Like the Egyptian boats, the Cushite, the Viking boats, and all that type of stuff. Archery, like all these varsity sports are really the sports that they said so the Olympic sports is what they said the gods originally did on Mount Olympus, just on a day-to-day basis. But if humans could do that, then they were like the gods, right? So like even Ethiopian runners were like some of the best runners in the world. We just show up and we just win you know what I mean? Because this is just what we do on a daily basis. So that's what they're talking about. Like when we lived in nature, we still made things like mounds and we had cities and we had all this stuff, but because of that whole thing about the closed third eye and like the really melanin, it actually really ties into melanin and all this stuff too, which I'm not trying to make that a big deal, but they basically had to make an artificial version of everything in nature for their psychology to not go insane, but so that they can protect their body, you know what I'm saying? So they can protect their body. So it's a whole deep thing. Like and this also ties to Queendom, which is where they got the Baphomet from. He's the god of the Nile River, and when the Nile River floods, it's basically like the woman when her water breaks and she's giving birth. So his name is Heka, and that's again where you get the cross or hockey, and you play that on Christmas and like Christ, cross. You know what I'm saying? Heka, Higgs. Even quantum physics, the Higgs boson particle, right? Hokmah on the tree of life. Hope. Hick. Yeah. So that's that's a red neck, a hick, the red people. They're getting all these games from, I'm telling you, they're getting all of this shit is this it's all one story.
Right. Even if some of these people not fully aware of like the word magic that goes behind it, it's still, somebody's aware to be calling these things, these certain names or whatever. And right
Oh,
quick
yeah.
before I go, like this was also something that came to me too, like with the three, like how you brought up the three accesses, you know what I'm saying? The one that
Yeah.
lines with the water, the fire, air. I also
Yeah.
had like a kind of like a little vibe of like at first, it was only 270 degrees of awareness, and we say 270 degrees for lack of a better, because I even caught that down low, and I'm like, shit, who's to say like 1 degree is really 1 degree? Like, like 90 degrees could be like 1 degree in essence. It's like kind of like whatever you make it to some extent. But
Yeah. No, I got you.
I get why it's like, in a certain alignment, but like basically, with this perspective, so again, just with air, fire, and water, he was only able to get like part of the insight, like 270, but you wasn't able to like see things from this angle. So like in essence, like the creation of Earth was to allow, to allow for the full circle, to allow for the 360 degrees, so all elements could like, have a full, full circle experience in essence. But I don't know.
So that's exactly what it is. So a couple of things on that. One, when you get into the fourth dimension in the cube of space is the center of the cube, right? So the center of the cube, which is Saturn, is also people don't know Saturn is also connected to Earth heavily. Like they're kind of like Earth reflection. Yeah. So it's basically if you can move forward, you move backwards, you move left, you move right, and you move upwards, right? Like jumping up and down. Mm-hmm. Then the fourth direction or the fourth dimension is when you sit still and you go inwards. That's how you break through Maya or illusion or the fourth dimension, aka what do you call it? The completion of the circle. That's actually why that looks like a figure of Pac-Man. You know what I'm saying? That's what that's talking about, because like everything in this world is like vampiristic, you know what I mean? And then once you go inwards, this is when you can start breaking through, like on some Neo shit, like you can break through the illusions in the Matrix. You see you start to see all these different patterns and stuff like that. And then what you have to do though is, this is where it doesn't really matter. This is where it doesn't really matter which religion to an extent that you're going with, but as long as you're kind of dedicated in it. Because with the Hindu, like with the Vedic scriptures or any of that, or whether it's like, because people don't realize, like in Ethiopia too, like we do this heavily with Psalms. You sing all of the Psalms. You know what I'm saying? All of Psalms is songs. Like right. There's a lot of that. You sing all of it, and the singing is like, it's the same reason why the monks will pray over a dead body, but like they'll recite certain things. The reciting, this is why the word Quran also means to recite. Like this is how you are able to you use those scriptures to remember yourself, because it's like, when you come in this realm, it's like a lot of people, like depending on like the environment they're in, they're going to lose the memories of past lives and all that shit, right? But when you start going into the dream realm, do you notice it's kind of hard to remember your earthly experience while you're in the dream realm?
And that's you're saying, like when you're in the dream realm, it's hard to remember like some of the things that you deal with, like in your day to day, like in in this experience. You're saying,
like it's hard to it's hard to really just be like, okay, when you're in the dream world, it's like, okay, I'm universal frequencies. I remember all of your memories from your life. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard to really tap into your ego while you're in the dream world. So it's really important to learn how to bring that into the dream world and cross over through it with your ego.
That's why some of my dreams be relating to, like, I was noticing like in some of my dreams, like I'm remembering some of the things that's going on in this, in these moments or whatever, I'm trying to think of one situation that popped up recently, but I think I was remembering that like say for instance, like right now I gotta get a new phone or whatever. And like in the dream, I was remembering like, oh yeah, gotta get a new phone. I don't have my phone right now, so I can't do this, that, or the third. Like in essence, I know it's That might not be the best example, but you know.
No, that's pretty much it.
You know, but
That's pretty much it. So that's why, like, when I talk about these Palladians or these fake Palladians, I don't even want to call them the real Palladians. I call them the fake beings. I don't even want to call them because they're translucent, kind of, but I don't even want to give them that. That's still too much credit. Like, what they do, and that's really what a lot of stuff in the society is with branding and marketing and everything that goes on. They're programming everybody's subconscious minds so that they have they're trying to fuck up the death cycle. This is why this is why they've been digging all the tombs in Egypt, right? And Egypt was such a big deal, but then they're starting to realize, oh, like Nubia and Kush and stuff came before Egypt. But that's because the tombs of Nubia and Kush are under the tombs of Egypt. And they also haven't gotten into, like, you know, we still run our places, you know what I'm saying? Like, they can't really, like, we don't disrespect our dead. Like, we don't dig up our own graves to learn our own history, you know what I'm saying? Like, we know our history. So, like,
right. It's tapped into more metaphysically than having to, like, actually, like, cut something in half or go dig it up and all that type of shit.
Yeah, but it's because we know, like, the whole thing, and I don't really want to be like too, but like the whole thing about, like, you know, being a bastard is like not knowing your father, you know what I'm saying? To be shameful is to not remember your father. That's like literally what it means, to not know the face of your father. And when you don't know who your father is, you don't know your you don't know your you don't know your history at all. And I don't even mean in the way like African Americans are like have mixed understanding. Like, that's different. Like, I'm talking in the way of like with Europeans for the most part, like a lot of them don't really know like at all where they came from, like, to that, you know what I'm saying? Like, we know we came from, regardless, we know we came from nature, you know what I'm saying? Regardless, we do know that. We know we're connected with nature, that's obvious. But other beings don't know where they came from. And not all Europeans, I'm just saying, like, some of them have different heritage, but that's where it gets like really deep, because what they're doing is they're messing up the cycles. They're trying to mess up the cycles of nature by fucking up the graves, messing with our subconscious mind so that we can't remember our own DNA, our genes, genes, you know, we're not tap into our genes. And then on top of not being able to tap into our genes, they're making everyone like mentally retarded, to be honest, right?
Right.
And it takes you to the level that when we're supposed, because now we already know, like, melanated people, like, we have like better physical abilities, like jumping and all this type of stuff, and that tells you we're able to move in higher more dimensions easier than other people.
I used to bring that up in my videos. I'm like, you know, it's not coming from an ego space, you know, it's just like it's just honoring the fact of what the fuck you see. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
that's yeah, that is what it is. but then like at that point we're just trying to be too considerate of other people's feelings and not acknowledging what's real, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, like you have to honor some truth in it. For me though, I am a being that likes, I guess I like to explain things from a diplomatic perspective, because that's how I would like for things to be explained to me. Like I don't like for people to like try to get me to like one side more than the other. Like, I like for a person to explain it in a manner to allow for me to decide. Like, I don't like when people got like a little shoulder nudge, like, hey, wink, you should kind of lean towards this side. Like, no, tell me the whole story, you know, how it is, and I'll decide on whether, you know.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make it sound like it's a good or bad thing. What I was going into is the reason why melanated people, we've all been getting into spirituality so deep, is because we're going inwards to go into the fourth dimension. And it's not just us, you see everyone around the world doing it, you know what I'm saying? Right. So, but a lot of other beings are skipping the 3D world. Like, they just try to ignore the fact that, you know what I mean? They try to ignore what happened in the 3D world entirely, which is kind of like, this is where like a lot of escapism and like the inability to connect reality to spirituality, that's karma for not, you know, figuring out that's their, you know what I'm saying? But so then the issue though that is coming up is the whole thing about, you know, Earth going into 5D. That's beyond just going within yourself, you know what I'm saying? 5D is if you have a tesseract, right? Like, you know, like a cube within a cube, right? A tesseract. 5D would be multiple tesseracts connected. You know what I'm saying? So this would be kind of like, this is where we get into things, like anime and
Interstellar kind of had that.
Exactly that. That's what all sci-fi is about. So that comes from 2001: Space Odyssey, right?
Yep.
Right, and the tablet coming to Earth. Remember when the monoliths were showing up all around the world like a year ago or 2 years ago, whatever? So this is what that was about. So what it is kind of like I've seen you said it too, like when talking about people coming together, like Voltron, like that type of thing, right? Like a Megazord, a Power Ranger. That's more like a 5D level. This is kind of like, it's not like you still act individually, but see, when I say Planet Kush or Planet Key, right? The Olmec people were called the Kai people or the Xi, the Kai or Shy people, right? Planet Key or Planet Earth is like, when I say Planet Key, I'm talking about 5D Earth. When people talk about Mother Earth, we're talking about 5D Earth, not 3D Earth. 5D Earth is like, that's a different Earth. So that type of Earth is like American Gods, where we're doing our thing, and then we somehow just like cross paths. You know what I'm saying? It's like you might be in a relationship with someone, but it's not because like, oh, I'm in a relationship with you, now you're with me. It's because like somehow our paths keep intertwining, you know what I'm saying, and crossing over. So every time they cross over, this is where like, you know what I mean, like that's where like relationships. So 5D is kind of like, this is why people get so drawn to right now, or it's drawn to like animes and movies and mythologies and stories, right? Because it's like you see how everything harmonizes together, right? In that way. And that's the dimension that we're, you know, all trying to get into. But again, it's also like that 4D realm is the issue, because everybody's like getting into this whole thing about good and evil and like demons and angels, and everybody, the angel, what people think are angels, like the image that people think are angels is actually the image of the demons.
Right,
Like,
because that's what I was picking up on a lot lately. I'm like, you know, because that's why I kind of got like standoffish in general about like what type of deities or energies I connect with on that level, you know what I'm saying? And definitely making sure it's from an internal perspective, like more so like I'm activating something inside of me than external version, because I realize there is a difference, you know, like I feel like when it's getting externalized, you're more so tapping into a collective egregor more than the actual energy inside of yourself.
Religion, like that they do have is they mapped out the fourth dimension. They mapped it out completely. So like all these songs, whether it's like Vedic scriptures, Psalms, like whatever scriptures that they have, if you actually have that stuff memorized instead of like
I'm listening, bro. I'm listening.
If you have that stuff memorized, right, instead of like, you know, garbage memorized, right? You can actually, like, those are warding protection. So like it's warding seals, kind of like tattoos and stuff. They ward you and they protect you so that when you go through 4D at any point, you stay safe. And once you get really good at it, once you really get good at 4D, this is when people are able to do things like, I can write a song, but if you are really like in tune with mythology, like I saw one song by Molly, right? This artist Molly from like vibrational, but I saw a song called I think it was which one was it? I forget which one it was, but it was literally I remember a whole thing about Lilith. It was like this whole like prayer to Lilith, right? And it was literally a prayer, but he integrated it into, and it's not like an evil thing. He like integrated it into a song, so that like when he's dealing with certain types of women, basically he's straight, like he can go through the illusions of like this, what the women are bringing. So once you get good at it, you can like do something like create a whole anime, or you can create a whole story, or you can create what they call, you know, they call them lodges in masonry, right? You can create one of those. You can create a culture, like you can create a guild, like in fairy tale. You can create a guild. You know what I'm saying? Or just be like so. This is where they got into the whole secret society thing, that they didn't really understand the mystery. They just kind of went left field with secret society bullshit. So this is where you be able to write music that actually wards off spirits and shit, you know?
All right, word, because as you brought up that, it made me think of this comic book, The Wicked and the Divine, that was about the gods returning to Earth or whatever, and they would incarnate into a certain person or whatever, but like mostly all of them would want to be like pop stars or whatever, like they're always like musicians, you know, even down to one part where Baal had like the stadium where it had like different little energy centers to kind of like collectively harness like everybody's energy in the stadium or whatever. But But just the whole connection, just simply put, like with them being pop stars, like where they would resurrect and become like some type of a popular musician or whatever. And they had a name for themselves. I forgot the name, but yeah. But bro, because I do have to leave soon. I know we'll go in.
No, yeah, no. I just want to like at least just want to round up the point. So we got that pretty ironed out. I mean, like that's in depth dimensions, man. Like that's the whole 4D thing, the whole dissonance, and when I was talking about wave interference, like not just harmony, but like wave interference to protect yourself. This is what you're trying to do. You know what I'm saying? Like when you make music, when people are doing drugs, all that type of shit, like they're naturally trying to, you know, like ward off things when they're walking through 4D, but they now what we're doing is we actually have the knowledge of how to do it correctly. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So again, like in connection with the constructive wave interference and this constructive and destructive wave interference, like you talking about like in connection with that whole science or whatever too.
Yeah, so you have the destructive wave interference surrounding the constructive wave interference. So like basically it's like, you know what, I think you said something about like no negative energy or no negative vibration, like my face or something like that. Like I remember you said in the video something about like a mantra like that, right? No lower vibration, something.
I can't recall right now, but is it basically like a mantra I made up or something?
Yeah, something like that. It was like something like no lower vibration to my face or something like in my I don't know. Something along those lines.
I can't recall, but I know I do have like certain stuff like, you know, like no toxic or like only truth, 100% truth and clarity could exist in my physical being and auric field, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah. So what you do is you have, it's like you make friends with, it's like by treating certain, when I'm talking about like dark energies and like demons and like this type of stuff, it's like being friends with the dark sides of yourself, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that is like a filter so that the people that actually interact with like that's like the warrior aspect that filters things. But then once they get across the water, like Hebrew to cross the water, to cross over the bridge, once they get towards you, then you actually like, that's when they're in the kingdom. That's where the actual construct, like you want to build the kingdom, you know what I'm saying? But you have to protect the kingdom.
Right. You got to have that moat, in essence, like the energy of protection.
Otherwise, every time you try to build it, it's going to kind of it's going to be like you keep stunning your own growth.
Right, because you have to keep rebuilding, you know, to the point where you get tired of rebuilding and not able to do other things. In essence.
Yeah, so you build your kingdom, and then you know whatever you're going to give to the world outside of the moat, outside of your kingdom, you know whatever you're going to give is probably going to be destroyed anyways. Like to an extent, it's going to start deteriorating because it's like the world of decay. And whatever you give out there, like your art, whatever, you let that be. You know what I'm saying? But you keep, like for example, if I'm doing music, I'm doing it for myself. Like I don't plan on releasing music for other people. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing that just so that I'm in my own area. Like I'm in like my own vibration. I'm like echoing. It's like a cave where I'm echoing myself and I'm increasing the vibration. But if I want to like put something out to the world, I'm doing that to help build the world itself. But I'm mainly focused on building my kingdom. If that makes sense.
Right. It's more so again like an internal aspect, you know, like in essence, you know, like being an artist in general, you know what I'm saying? It's like you're being an artist because you're expressing yourself. You know, it's not necessarily like I don't, you know, with whatever Jewish aspects and all that, how music kind of is like one of the fields of artistry that kind of got mixed up with the energy of like having to present yourself or be a certain way for others, you know what I'm saying? But like I would always bring that up. I'm like, you know, artists, you know, like just like you paint a picture or whatever, you're not like, oh, let me go ask everybody down the street how I should make the first stroke on this page, you know what I'm saying? It's like, no, you create the art, you know, of you just doing you and tapping in like how you're inspired. And if somebody, you know, vibes with it, they vibe with it instead of like trying to create art built around what you think people would like, you know, kind of like how what music has turned to in some, you know, in some instances. In some instances, because let me give credit to the fact that now there's still a lot of artists that's just genuinely creating from the space of them being them. Kind of like what you're saying, like, hey, you know, I'm just happening to share this with you. You know what I'm saying? But I'm creating it from the space of me being me, you know, and not necessarily like to appease on what you may think is, you know, popular or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you like it's not even like you're not doing it to entertain other people, you know what I'm saying? Like you're doing it for yourself. And then when you do it for yourself on that vibration like that, like it can be for other, like you can do things for other people too, but like mainly you want to do yourself, right?
Right.
And then what will happen is the people that actually vibe with yourself will be attracted to that, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
But yeah, I gotta let you go. Okay.
But yeah, bro. So I'll connect probably in between the same time, between 1 to 6 tomorrow. You know, if that's cool. You know, and we'll kind of, you know, finish chopping it up, take the notes, and then from there map out, tap into the video, because also that's what I wanted to discuss too, like bringing in that whole perspective too, like the whole domain. Again, from Yu Yu Hakusho and from Jujutsu Kaisen, like the whole creating an innate domain, or you know, and that connection with the whole moat energy too. So
that's the deep thing. That's like Linux computing versus having Windows. You know what I'm saying? Being your own programmer, where you can press the button and reset it when you want. Versus, so that's a deep thing. We definitely build on that.
Well, bro, we're gonna connect tomorrow, man. Appreciate you being available to build, bro. Greatly appreciate it, bro. Like, appreciate you holding the space you hold, bro. You know, and appreciate the words that you shared with me the other day in the message, man. Those little small points of like, hey, you know, you got this, and you know, all that go a long way, bro. Most definitely.
Yeah, no worries, man. I appreciate even being on here. You know, it's cool to be like, you know, see people that, you know, like online that you like, you know, watch on, you know what I'm saying? And then you kind of like interacting with them like that, you know what I'm saying?
And like I would always say in any video or just in any instance, bro, like shit, bro, I just happen to have a popular YouTube channel, you know what I'm saying? Like you just tapped in, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm sitting here learning from you, you know, just as much as you would consider yourself learning from me, bro. So definitely, man. But have a blessed night, bro. And I'll link with you tomorrow again, like in between like 1 to 6 again. So.
All right, cool. Good night.
All right, bro. Good night. Have a blessed one, bro.